Good afternoon. We're going to call the open session of the Pension and Health Benefits Committee to order, please. First order of business will be to call the roll.
Rob Fechner,
Good afternoon.
Ramon Rubicava,
Present, thank you.
Margaret Brown,
Here.
Henry Jones,
Here.
David Miller,
Here.
Ralph Cobb for Reyna Ortega, Mona Pascal Rogers, Teresa Taylor, Karen Greenross for Betty Yee.
Thank you. Item 2 is the approval of the 2018 timed agenda. What's the pleasure of the committee? Moved by Taylor, seconded by Pascal Rogers. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 3, executive report. Ms. Bailey-Crimmins, Ms. Lum, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Donna Lum, CalPERS team member. Today I have 2 brief updates to share with you. The first is an update on our CalPERS benefit education events that we recently hosted. And I'd also like to introduce to you 2 new division chiefs in the customer services and support branch. So first, I wanted to share with you that we had a very successful CB, CalPERS Benefit Education event, which we held in San Ramon on June 7th and June 8th. This 2-day event had a total attendance of over 1,600 members, which then again exceeded our high, which we held there previously of 1,300. It was a pleasure to be able to have Mr. Fechner and Mr. Jones join us at the CB, and as always, team members do appreciate your attendance. We also just completed another CB in Pasadena this past weekend. It was held on June 14th and 15th, where our 2-day total was just over 1,500 attendees, which is pretty much right on track with the number of attendees that we had there previously. And again, the team members were very happy to have Mr. Rubicava join us at the CB, and really appreciate your attendance there as well. We do have another CB that's coming up. It's going to be held in Ontario, and it will be on June 12th and June 13th, and it will be at the Ontario Convention Center. So again, this wraps up the CBs that we had planned for this fiscal year. We do have all of the CBs posted on the CalPERS website, and they go all the way through the end of the next fiscal year. So for those members that are interested in looking at the schedule, again, you can find it on the CalPERS website. Next, I want to share with you a brief restructure that we recently did in the customer services branch. Earlier in June, we effectuated an organization structure change that basically took 2 of our large divisions and split them into 2 smaller divisions. The Anthony Sweeney will continue to lead the Retirement Benefit Services Division, where he will continue to oversee service retirement and benefit functions and administer the judges and legislature's retirement system. The new Disability and Survivor Benefits Division will administer disability retirement and post- and pre-retirement survivor benefits. And after a very competitive recruitment process, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you the chief of the new Disability Service and Survivor Benefits Division. Keith Riddle has over 17 years of CalPERS experience, including the past 6 years as serving as the Assistant Division Chief over the Survivor and Benefits unit. In his role, he has led multiple improvements and initiatives to ensure that these benefits are paid timely and that our customers are highly satisfied with the services that the team has been delivering. So at this time, I'd like to ask Keith to stand, and please join me in welcoming Keith into his new role. The next change is related to what was our Customer Services and Outreach Division. Corrine Carolyn will continue to lead the Customer Contact Center and its critical support areas, and the new division will be known as the Customer Experience Division. We have established a new division called the Customer Education and Outreach Division, and it will include all 8 of our regional offices and the education and training services for external and internal customers. After the recruitment process, I am pleased to introduce to you David Rubio as the chief of this new division. Many of you know David in his previous role as the assistant chief overseeing our CalPERS benefit education events and other training and education outreach functions. Under his leadership, we have definitely seen the CBs grow and mature and continue to provide much-needed education to our members. Overall, David has served for CalPERS for over 20 years. Unfortunately, David is not able to join us today. He is with his family. However, again, we will extend our thanks and appreciation to him in his new role. That concludes my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I do want to make a comment about the, first of all, congratulations to both Keith and David. But I want to make a comment about the CB in San Ramon. I attended, and I'd met a woman about 2 weeks before the CB who was 71 years old and had separated from employment but never retired. And she said the reason she didn't retire is because she didn't know what to do. So we gave her the date. She actually went online, did her estimate, came to the CB, shaking the entire time. And within about 20 minutes of being there, Ty from your department actually had her retired. She was walking out the door, skipping a hoot. So thank you very much for all the hard work. There was one other lady who came in as an active member and said she almost didn't pay the $5 to park. But she also left about 10 minutes later retired. So great job on the staff down there, and the people were very pleased. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bailey-Crimmins?
Good morning, or good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Leanna Bailey-Crimmins, CalPERS team member. Today, the CalPERS Health Program will be presenting the proposed 2020 health rates for our HMO and PPO basic and Medicare plans. In addition, we'll be sharing the proposed association plans with CalPERS provides enrollment and eligibility services for. And these rates that you will see here today represents months and months of negotiations and 18 months of CalPERS' medical claim information. So a lot of work goes into what you're going to see here today. In addition to rates, there are 3 items I'd like to quickly highlight. The first is open enrollment. It's right around the corner. Second are improvements that we have made within MyCalPERS to assist employers on their health enrollment process. And finally, just to a preview of what to expect from today's agenda. Open enrollment will take place September 9th through October 4th of 2019. The open enrollment app that we had launched last year was a huge hit, so it will be again once available effective August 26th for our members. All members can use this app to view their health plan statements and perform quick and convenient health plan comparisons. And again, this year, retirees will be able to make changes, including changing their plans and changing their dependents. And so this could be a huge time saver for them. In March, I mentioned our work on a new provider directory utility where members can look up their personal doctor and find the plans that their doctors participate in. Our project goal was to have that completed by the end of the calendar year, but because of the hard work and streamlined efforts, we believe that we're on target to make it available for open enrollment, which we think will be very helpful for our members as they're making those hard choices. And then based on employer feedback, we enhanced and simplified the employer and member enrollment process using the MyCalPERS health benefit screens. So some of the enhancements that we made was we actually streamlined the navigation flow to make it much more user-friendly. We actually also now have new informational text on the screens, which help the employers as they're going through those screens. And then confirmation of successful process transactions. It's always nice when you hit the button that you know that it actually completed and it was saved. These features were implemented in MyCalPERS this last weekend, and they are available for our employers now. So what to expect from today's agenda on consent. This is the second quarter update for the PERS Select value-based insurance design. We continue to experience increased member participation. Members are engaging in preventative and healthy activities, which are benefiting them by deductible credits. For action today is an approval for the HMO and PPO rates. And then lastly, there will be an update on the reference pricing pharmaceutical solicitation, which is currently underway. Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to take a moment of privilege. There's a person in the audience that is, I'd like to recognize, Dr. Kathy Donison. She's retiring June 30th, and this will be her last Pension and Health Benefits Committee meeting. She has proudly served CalPERS' members and employers for the last 17 years. Many of the health programs, benefit designs, contract negotiations, and really moving the industry in the right direction is directly related to Kathy's hard work and dedication and really making a difference on behalf of the members. The list is way too long to go over her accomplishments, but I just want to quickly highlight the value-based insurance design that we've had a lot of success. That was her baby. Reference pricing for medical, and now we're broaching onto pharmacy. Retirees love the silver sneakers. She brought that to us, and she also negotiated 3 complex pharmacy benefit manager contracts. In her career, she told me she'd never do another one again. But that actually saved millions of dollars annually for our members, which is reflected in being able to contain that increase of rates. So Kathy's going to be sorely missed. I'm honored to work side by side with her these past 6 years that I've been here at CalPERS, and I know many of you have worked with her much longer than that. So with that, I'd like to turn around and acknowledge her for her hard work. And with that, ending on a high note, that concludes my opening remarks.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
On behalf of the committee, Colonel Donison, we want to thank you for your invaluable years of service to this organization, to our members, as our active members, as well as our retirees. I'm not sure how we're going to fill the position behind you. You've done yeoman's work while you've been here, and we thank you very much. Before we move on, I also want to acknowledge someone else who's sitting up here today, Mr. Ralph Cobb from CalHR. This is Ralph's last meeting. Ralph is officially retiring and moving on. He's leaving California in his RV and going to enjoy the rest of his next chapter in his life. So, Ralph, thank you for all of your years of service. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Next brings us to agenda item 4, the action consent items, the approval of the May 14th committee meeting minutes. What's the pleasure of the committee? Moved by Taylor, seconded by Cobb. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5, the information consent items, having no request to remove anything. Before we move on to item 6, I want to make a comment that the committee this morning actually met with a couple of our health plans in closed session to express our dissatisfaction and disappointment with the rates that they came up with, talking about a plan for the future. And in fact, in one case, gave them an opportunity to do the right thing and correct their business model by next year, or they may no longer be a viable option for our fund. So just so you all know, we weren't just sitting in here having cookies and cream. We were actually having some very serious discussions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Malm.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kim Malm, CalPERS team. Agenda items 6A and 6B I'm going to present together. This is for the approval of the 2020 HMO and PPO plan premiums, and they're all action items for your approval. The final premiums are in attachment 1 and have been provided to you as a handout. There are also copies in the back of the room, and they've been posted to our website. The attachment 1 shows the single-party, two-party, and family premiums. Again, the two-party premium is the single-party premium multiplied by 2, and the family is the single-party premium multiplied by 2.6. The rate development process began in February with the health plans submitting their initial 2020 rates with updates in March, April, and May. Since the May Pension and Health Benefits Committee meeting, the rates team has been working with our internal and external counsel, internal and external actuaries, and the health plan carriers. The rates team held discussions with the health plan carrier representatives to address outstanding concerns. As a result, there has been some movement in the premiums from May to June. The 2020 premiums have been validated by our internal actuarial team and our third-party actuarial consulting team. Let me touch on a few of the key highlights for the 2020 premiums. First, there are no copay or benefit design changes to the health plans for 2020. We reported last month that United Healthcare and UC Davis were still negotiating since UC Davis had an impact on UHC's statewide rate. We're pleased to report that UHC and UC Davis have come to an agreement. Therefore, the UC Davis, with UHC, there will be no disruption to our members. For plan changes, Blue Shield is offering a new plan called TRIO. This is a narrow network offered in 6 counties: El Dorado, Los Angeles, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento, and Yolo. In addition, Anthem HMO Select Medicare Advantage is being offered in Monterey County for 2020 to accommodate our combination enrollment in the HMO plan. Currently, the only basic HMO plan option in Monterey County is Anthem HMO Select, which does not have a corresponding Medicare plan. So let's go over what we're seeing as part of the 2020 premiums. You should have those in front of you. There's a 4.84% overall increase to the total program over 2019. This does not include the associations. There's a 5.98% weighted average increase to the basic HMO plans and a 6.08% increase to the HMO Medicare. You can find these in attachment 1, page 1. The association plan rates have increased by 1.36% for basic and 6.75% for Medicare, which CalPERS does not negotiate the plan designs or the rates. So therefore, the overall total program increase is 4.65, a little lower than the previous number. Our PPO basic plans increased by 3.28% over 2019. PERS Care basic plan premium rate increase of 6.45% is due mostly to ending risk adjustment beginning in the 2019 plan year. We have a 2.91% increase for PERS Choice and a rate pass for PERS Select. In May, the board approved $44 million from the Health Care Fund reserves to buy down the PERS Care premium to once again smooth the 6.45% increase for PERS Care in 2020. The rate pass for PERS Select is partially the result of the improved health risk in 2019 and the introduction of value-based insurance design, or VBID. For the 3 PPO Medicare plans, they have all premium decreases for 2020 of a negative 2.52%. This is mainly due to the improvement in pharmacy rebates and the Employer Group Waiver Program subsidy, or AGWIP. So how are we doing? Mercer did a comparison of CalPERS average health care costs for both our PPO and HMO plans from between 2013 to 2019. And for their larger purchasers, and we've averaged a 2.6% HMO increase and 3.7% PPO increase, whereas the market is at 6.8%. We understand these costs are still too high and having too much of an impact on our members' pocketbook. We believe a competition analysis and bringing pressure to the Bay Area this next year may move that needle in the right direction. We'll also be looking at the Sacramento area. Weighted average. I've said weighted average a lot today, so let me give you a quick explanation of how we calculate the weighted average for our plan types. CalPERS multiplies each plan's single-party premium by the number of subscribers in that plan and compares it to the total cost for 2020 over the total cost of 2019. This is a simplified version of that math. The premiums must be weighted by the membership before totaling in order to give us the cost of health care and how it changes from year to year. New this year, we thought it might be beneficial to our members to explain where their health dollars are spent. In the back of the room and also in front of you, you should have a copy of the Health Buck. So it's much like the premium health buck, the premium buck, where it shows the source of their pension payment. We put together a premium or health premium buck. The buck clearly illustrates to our members that 92 cents out of the dollar is spent on members' actual Medicare and pharmacy utilization. Very little is spent on administration. We think that the Health Premium Buck tool will be helpful, and our teams will be using it during open enrollment and the educational events. Again, you can find a hard copy in the back of the room and on our website shortly. Our next steps include publishing the final rates and continuing to work with the rest of the enterprise to prepare for open enrollment this fall, as Leanna mentioned, September 9th through October 4th. The 2020 premiums will take effect on January 1st, 2020. And I'd like to take a moment of personal privilege, if I may, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank the rates team and Steve Goff and the legal office and the actuarial office and public affairs and Kathy's team. These are not numbers that we celebrate, but the team members have worked really hard this year, late nights and weekends, and I want to say thank you to all of their hard work. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Ms. Mom. And before we go on to the other board members, I echo your sentiments and comments about the staff and their hard work. I also want to thank you for your stepping in and taking over this project.
Thank you.
We agree that none of us are appreciative of these numbers, but we're all very appreciative of the hard work that went into getting to this point. So thank you and thank the team.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo the chair's sentiment about the rates being too high. Even though they came down some from May, they still didn't come down enough. And we just need to be reminded that the impact is on the pocketbook of our members when these rates are accelerating like they are. And even more profound, I'm looking at attachment 1, page 4, United Healthcare. While the single rate is still competitive, but the increase percent change is 9.24% for Medicare. And it's even more dramatic, the impact is more dramatic on retirees because they're on a fixed income. And so I need to understand how and why this 9.24% increase is this high. And maybe not you, Ms. Mom, but maybe United Care needs to come and explain that. If they're in the audience, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
Please identify yourself for the record.
Good afternoon. Michelle Volrath, United Healthcare. Thank you for the question, Henry. And Mr. Jones, we're very concerned also about the pocketbooks of our members, and we aim to serve them well. What I'd like to talk about regarding the increase is our 9.24% is almost entirely made up of the health insurance tax returning from the PPACA laws. So essentially in 2018, the health insurance tax was first introduced. It was then removed for 2019, and then reintroduced for 2020. And with that impact, that actual impact is at $25.96 PMPM overall, which essentially attributes our actual year-over-year increase without taxes at only 2.6%. So that is really significantly impacting us. And it is challenging because other enterprises, such as not-for-profit enterprises, do not have the same tax liability, so our liability is higher on that basis. And in addition, over the last 3 years, if you look at our rates from a non-tax, if you look at the 2018 without the tax, 2019, which didn't have it anyhow, and then our 2020 rates without the tax, it's really average over 3 years, about a 1.5% increase overall. So we really are trying to do our best to keep that down. The taxes has caused some issues for us as well.
And is that tax ongoing, or is it a one-time implication?
No, it's part of the PPACA laws, and what's interesting is both parties, and this is the one thing I think in Washington that they're in agreement with, would like to have it removed entirely, but they haven't been able to get anything to pass through for 2020 to actually have it removed. What tends to seem to happen is every other year it tends to be a bigger election year, and that's when they remove it.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
Even though it doesn't solve the problem, but at least it explains why. Okay, thank you very much.
Completely understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor.
Yes, thank you. I just want to reiterate what everybody has said so far, which is these are higher than we would like to see. I'm especially not happy with Blue Shield Access Plus. I think it's also important that I think I asked for this, and I know you guys checked, if we could get the membership so that we can do the weighted average as well? I would really appreciate that.
We're working on that right now.
Okay, thank
Christina.
you very much. And then, hold on a second. I had one more question. You had talked about, well, it doesn't want to move now. The health, let me go back to it. There we go. I'm sorry. So each weighted average percent is the single party premium times the number of the members in that plan, and it's the total cost for 2020 compared to 2019. So that's our percentage that we're seeing here, the increase,
That's correct.
the weighted average, correct? Okay. And I just wanted to also say that I thank you guys very much. I know you worked really hard, and nobody's happy with these rates, and I understand that a 5.98% overall increase for HMOs is probably not the best thing we've ever seen. But I know that you worked really hard. Kim, I know you stepped in at a moment's notice and worked really hard. I want to thank Ms. Donaldson for her diligence every year that I've been on the board. And I just want folks to know that our staff works to do the best they can with what they've got so that we can get the lowest rates we can. And I will also echo Mr. Fechner in that we did bring a couple of the insurance carriers forward during closed session to talk to them about the increase in rates and how they're going to work with us so that this doesn't occur again, so that we don't see this kind of rate increase again, because it's way higher than medical inflation, and we shouldn't be here. We did get it down from where it was in May, so I'm appreciative of that hard work. And again, thank you very much to the staff for that. That's
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Green Ross.
Thank you. So this question might be for Leanna, but my question is about Kaiser, and the rate increases 3.62%. Now, I'm very aware, we've all read about the benefit that the stigma for mental health has diminished, which has led to an increase in the need for these services, and just have a very aware of friends and colleagues who have young adult teen children, and that unfortunately for some reason in this generation the increase in the need for mental health services has just escalated. All kinds of theories on that, and that's a separate conversation. But the question is this rate increase reflective of the enhancements and the discussions going on about what Kaiser can do in the short term and the long term to ensure that our beneficiaries and their families can quickly get mental health care and get in to see somebody right away, because there's nothing scary than being a parent and having a teen struggling. It's very scary out there right now. And so I don't know if that rate is reflective of their plans. I just want to know if you can speak or have Kaiser speak to what their plans are in the short term and the long term for, I know we definitely know there's not enough healthcare professionals out there, and we hear that they're doing more, and I just want to know if this rate reflects that or is going to go up because we have to solve this problem too.
So Ms. Green Ross, the rate that you see in front of you is based on utilization and cost of services that have occurred in the last 18 months and based on the trend that we think is going to happen in 2020. But I will let you know that mental health and behavioral health is very important to CalPERS. We have it as one of our performance measures. We meet quarterly with the plans to hold them accountable for those performance. And we are also, recently at our stakeholder meeting, we brought in 4 of our plans, Kaiser's, Blue Shields, United, to talk about what they're doing in relation to behavioral health. So wanted to let you know this is a focus for us, and we will continue to be reporting to the board our progress made in this area, just like we have with opioids and other key initiatives that we are focusing on.
Great, I appreciate that. And then I had a follow-up question to Controller Yi's letter from just a short while ago on what we can do to ensure that all our beneficiaries are aware and that our the plans with which we contract are honoring the laws in the state on reproductive rights and CalPERS's long expressed position on gender affirming care, and how do we make sure all our beneficiaries know what their rights are so that they never have to go through unnecessary burdens to access that care.
So we did receive State Controller Yee's letter to the board, and actually to me, and it was copied to the board. So the team has reached out to each one of the health plans asking for written assurance that there would be coverage for those services. Once we have validation from each of the plans, there will be a response back to Controller Yee in writing.
Great, appreciate it. But really, in the end, what we would ideally like is that all our beneficiaries are communicated and know what their rights are, and that there's a process if they are never able to access it through certain providers that may have beliefs that are inconsistent with state law.
And we do have these services reflected in the evidence of coverage for the plans, as well as protections in California state law. But again, I think the additional piece that Controller Yee asked for was to actually have the health plans proactively assert that these services would be covered. So that would be the third piece that would be in writing.
Great, thank you, Marcy.
Thank you. Mr. Rubacava.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to join the chair and our colleagues on this board to in acknowledging the good work that the staff did in getting these renewals for 2020. I know it was the rates, even though nobody's pleased with them, are justifiable in the sense they reflect the cost of care. Secondly, I think it's appropriate, it was said before, that the rates have been reduced significantly from the May submittal. I think it would be a good communication piece if we acknowledge and publicize how much savings that was in millions of dollars from moving from May to today's date. And also, it was some tough negotiations from the reports we hear, and we want to acknowledge also, I want to acknowledge the carriers for sharpening their pencils. I know there was some tough decisions they had to make, and they made them. And we look forward to continuing dialogue with our staff and the carriers to improve the quality outcomes, make sure that people get their proper care at the right time, and access is affordable also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Middleton.
I want to thank Controller Yee for raising the issue of women's reproductive health care and gender affirming care, and thank Ms. Green-Ross for raising that issue. Not only is it sufficient to receive confirmation that they have policies in place, in both instances, the availability of care and of culturally competent care is a critical factor. So I would be looking to get an understanding of what procedures they have in place to ensure that those individuals who are providing care are culturally competent, and that access, either through plan or outside of plan, without additional cost, if it is not available in plan, is available.
Thank you. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, thanks. Again, I would echo the comments of my colleagues here. And also, as unhappy as I am with the increases, particular increases, I do want to acknowledge that having been following CalPERS and been involved in these discussions with CalPERS members and union members as a union representative for many years, it's like night and day. The effectiveness, the sophistication of our team, and how much further under the hood we're able to get working with our providers to understand the costs, understand the cost structures, to get a better value for our members. And while in any given instance, some of these numbers really bother me, and we've got a lot more work to do to get there, I'm more confident than ever that our team is on the right track to getting there. And beyond just the price tag, which is, again, in some specific instances we've talked about in closed section, is frustrating to me, this does represent a continuing to be able to give our members access to quality health care, and we're going to continue to work on the affordability part. but we continue to keep the bar high on access, on choices, on quality of health care, and we've got to, keep our providers and feet to the fire on those elements as well. And I think our team is positioned to continue doing that, and I thank all our stakeholders who are also, providing the input and providing the feedback that we need to continue to keep the pressure on and keep moving in the right direction.
Mr. Cobb.
I just want to echo David's comments and just to extend my appreciation. I know firsthand just how grueling and how long and arduous the work is. And, Kathy and I go back to when she first came to CalPERS, and I can tell you, I look back and it's just scary that we actually thought we knew enough to negotiate PBM contracts and set rates and all of that. And what's built up under Kathy's leadership is just multiple orders of magnitude more sophistication than was in place before she came. And we owe her a lot, and those that follow her have big shoes to fill.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other requests to speak, this is an action item. What's the pleasure of the committee? Moved by Brown, seconded by Taylor. We have 2 requests to speak from the audience. Stacy Peterson and Sheila McShane. Please come forward to your right. And please speak your name for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes for your comments.
Thank you so much for allowing us to speak. My name is Sheila McShane, and I'm the HR manager for the City of Woodland. I appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate all the efforts that your team has put in to setting the rate so far. But I wanted to express some concerns I have, not only for the active employees at the City of Woodland, but the retirees at the City of Woodland, because they also have to pay part of the premium for CalPERS. It appears that we moved Yolo County as part of the City of Woodland, and Yolo County used to be part of the Bay Area, and Yolo County, El Dorado, Placer, and Sacramento went into one region, and now we're being moved back into what we consider the Bay Area rates. And what we were told was the cost to the entities wouldn't be very high, except it's greater than what was expected. We entered into a lot of our labor agreements with some assumptions on the cost of the medical plans for CalPERS. We've set rates, flat rates for our employees, and this may cause some of our employees to incur out-of-pocket costs, as well as increase the cost to retirees who are on fixed incomes. The assumption that if we were going to change regions would be about a $41 increase. That's not the case for us, at least what we see. The information we had received was going to be insignificant. Had we not moved to the Bay Area rates, this would be true. However, we are now in the Bay Area rates, and our Kaiser plan went up 12%. This is where the majority of our employees are enrolled. So this really does cost our employees a tremendous amount of money. The rates not only affect our employees again, but they affect all of our retirees as well. And we have about 200 active employees and about 250 retired employees. So this is going to be a very large burden for our employment group. And we ask that you continue to look at the rates as you've stated in the meeting already. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you for being here. Ms. Bailey-Crimmins?
I would just like to clarify, just so that you're aware, there is no longer a Bay Area region.
I understand that.
And so looking at that, I just want to make sure that you were looking at the new Region 1, which is a consolidation of all Northern California.
I understand that, and I called it Bay Area rates only because it has San Francisco in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacy Peterson. I'm the Human Resources Director for the City of Roseville, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you to speak because we also have concerns. As part of the region changes that occurred, we're the most significant region, I think, that has been impacted. Sacramento has a competitive area for medical plan premiums, and so we are seeing a 12% increase. You don't see it, I don't think, in what you see as reports. What concerns me is oftentimes what you see as a committee is averaged across all of the different plan premiums. So you're seeing these really moderate increases. So obviously you did speak about the Blue Shield Access Plus. That's going up 28% for employees in the Sacramento area from what our employees were paying. 12% for Kaiser. So to add context to that, that equates to $209 per month for our Kaiser employees enrolled in Kaiser. And for me, that's where we have significant concerns because as an employer, we're not able to keep up with those rate increases and what we contribute. So employees are going to bear the extent of that increase at the family level. And I don't know how many of you can just absorb $209 per month, especially where we don't have the significant size of COLAs going into place because our pension costs are going up as an employer. So I did want to also point out that, PERS Choice is also another one of those plans that employees are enrolled in a lot, and that's going up 8% in the Sacramento region. So we're very concerned that while we've been merged in, we've not been kept separate, and we understand the region change occurred, but I do agree with Sheila that we understood that it was on average going to go up by $41 a month. So in December, when that conversation was had, we did not understand the impact that this would have to the Sacramento members. I think that the biggest question that we have a few questions for you, that we're wondering, because there was some other smoothing done for the PERS care plan, if there's any way for the committee to ask staff if there is a choice to possibly smooth the impact to the Sacramento region. So just to add more context, the employers down in what was the Bay Area region, they're seeing a 3% increase compared to what our Sacramento members will receive as a 12% increase. So there's a significant difference with having that region change made for all of the members within this area. There's about 16,000 members in Kaiser in the Sacramento region. What was presented to us as part of those region changes was that this would impact about 3,800 members who would receive greater than 10% increases. Well, when I look at these numbers and do the math, then the increases are, there's 16,000 members who are being impacted. So with that, I just would like to leave it with the question, whether there's any way to do any smoothing to reduce the impact to the Sacramento area members as part of this process.
Ms. Mom, Ms. Bailey-Crimmins, either one of you?
Just from an education perspective, so for the PPO, CalPERS is a plan, and there are such thing as reserves. So CalPERS, because we bear the full risk, we have a month and a half of reserves, and so because there were rebates from the federal subsidies, we were able to present to the board monies that could be used to help with the PPO plans. For the HMO plans, that is a very they're in a 5-year contract. Once the 5-year, they hold the money within each of those sub-accounts, and claims runouts can actually go 3 years beyond. And so we have to ensure that there's enough money in the account to pay for medical claims. So when it comes to smoothing, it's much more difficult when it comes to the HMO side than it is on the PPO side. So it's just more of an explanation of how there really is a difference.
Right. Thank you. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear from the committee that we're voting on both 6A and 6B. Both the maker of the motion and the seconder, understand? Yes. Very good. Yes. Okay, the motion being before you, no other request to speak. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Brings us to information item 7A. Ms. Mullum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, Again, Kim Malm, CalPERS team member. 7A, the state annuitant contribution formulas, is an information item for the committee. The state annuitant contribution amounts are based on the proposed 2020 health premiums. They're provided in attachment 1. Copies are available in the back of the room and are posted to our website. The state contribution rates for each premium tier, one party, two party, and family party, were calculated based on the weighted average of the 4 largest health plans. For the 190 formula this year, the top 4 largest health plans, basic health plans, are Kaiser Permanente, Blue Shield Access Plus, HMO PERS Choice, and United Healthcare HMO. State annuitant contributions are calculated in accordance with PEMCA. Under the 190 formula, which most retirees are in, the state pays 100% of the weighted average premium of the top 4 largest basic plans for each subscriber and 90% for each dependent. For 2020, under the 190 formula for basic or Medicare, one-party coverage is $767. Two-party coverage is $1,461, and family coverage is $1,868. The 80/80 formula, which applies to state employees first employed by the state in 2016 or 2017, depending on bargaining unit, has much smaller population. Under the 80/80 formula, the state pays for the basic plan 80% of the weighted average premium of the top 4 largest basic plans, which I just told you, and 80% for the dependent. This year, the top 4, again, Kaiser, Blue Shield, HMO PERS Choice, and United Healthcare. For the Medicare plan, 80% of the weighted average premium is made of the top 4 largest Medicare plans for each subscriber, and 80% for their dependent. This year, the top 4 largest Medicare plans are Kaiser, United Healthcare, PERS Care, and PERS Choice, Medicare Supplemental. For 2020, under the 80/80 formula, for basic, $609 for one party, $1,283 for two party, and $1,585 for family coverage. For Medicare, $282 for one party, $562 for two party, and $845 for family coverage. Just as a reminder, CalPERS calculates the state annuitant rates, and CalHR calculates the active rates for this. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Seeing no request to speak, brings us to agenda item 7B, the outpatient prescription drug price referencing. Ms. Donison.
Mr. Chairman, it has been a pleasure to serve you and this Pension and Health Benefits Committee for 17 years, and to serve the Board of Administration under Mr. Jones as current president, and also to serve our CEO, Marcy Frost, and our executive team. So with that, I will cover the last agenda item of my active career. I will be retired July 1. And before I start this presentation, I want to thank you because you took under your wing the veterans, both active veterans, which I was for many years while I worked here, as well as our retired veterans. So thank you for making that an initiative for several years and looking after our Cal vets as well as our other veterans that serve our armed forces.
You're welcome, and thank you.
This is agenda item 7B, and it updates the committee on the reference pricing solicitation to obtain a vendor to support CalPERS in its program implementation. The reference pricing program is for basic members only who are receiving pharmacy benefits through the pharmacy benefit manager. Joining me today to my right is Ms. Cheryl Day, who is overseeing the solicitation activities. We'll cover the reference pricing strategy, the timeline for the procurement, and the next steps. Reference pricing of pharmaceuticals by therapeutic class is a program aimed at reducing pharmacy costs by influencing members to switch to the lower cost alternative drugs within each therapeutic class. In order for members to make that choice for lower cost alternatives, the members, prescribers, and pharmacists need to have the most up-to-date drug and pricing information. If a member cannot switch due to medical necessity, an exception process is available for those members. If a member chooses not to switch and there is no medical necessity, the CalPERS Health Program has an appeals process. In November 2018, the committee directed the CalPERS team to conduct a solicitation to obtain a second vendor to assist CalPERS with its marketing, prescriber, and pharmacy outreach and education, and also to help us monitor the program performance. I'd now like to turn it over to Ms. Cheryl Day, who is going to present the rest of this item.
Thank you, Kathy. In February of this year, 2019, CalPERS released the request for information to approximately 20 vendors. Of those 20, we received 5 responses. CalPERS has engaged Mercer, an external consultant, to assist us in developing the Phase 1 and Phase 2 reference pricing solicitation requirements. CalPERS provided those requirements to the responses to Mercer, who used that information to develop the Phase 1 and Phase 2 solicitation requirements. Phase 1 minimum qualifications was released in April of 2019. 7 firms submitted a proposal for that phase. Upon completion of the evaluation of Phase 1, it was determined that all 7 firms qualified to participate in Phase 2 of the solicitation. Phase 2 technical and fee proposals were developed in collaboration with Mercer, our Office of Support Services Division, our legal counsel, and the Health Plan Administration Division's subject matter experts. In Phase 2, firms are required to provide their reference pricing capabilities, experience, and fees associated with performing the services under the contract. Phase 2 proposals are due on June 26. The reference pricing milestones that you see here summarize the solicitation activities to date. Upon receipt of the Phase 2 proposals due on June 26, CalPERS team members will begin the evaluation process. Phase 2 is worth a maximum of 1,000 points, and the highest scoring firms, as determined by CalPERS, will be provided the opportunity to participate in Phase 3 of the solicitation. This slide shows the timeline for all phases of the procurement. Phase 3 will consist of disseminating the contract to those qualified firms with the expectation that they are in agreement to the terms and conditions of the contract. The proposed contract will begin in mid-August and run through December 31st of 2021. CalPERS team members would like to complete the solicitation process by mid-August so that we can begin the important work on the implementation component of the reference pricing program, with the objective that it is available for the 2020 plan year. That concludes my presentations, and we are available to take your questions.
Very good, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. No request from the board, but one request from the audience. Mr. Neil Johnson.
Neil Johnson, SEIU Local 1000. Several months ago, we came and said we wanted you to move towards awarding a contract. I think, and last week at the stakeholder engagement meeting, I thank Kathy and her staff for moving rapidly to get to the point of going out for bid on this important project, and I want to thank the board for that too. We think within a few years. Our members will thank you for having brought this forward in a timely fashion. It is a method that I think you will find really reduces costs, and I hope it really works well. I thank you for your effort. I also want to take a moment of personal privilege to thank, as we all have, Kathy Donaldson for her hard work. I met Kathy, 2002, 2003, when dealing with a data warehouse, and then through many trials and tribulations over the last 15 or so years. She has done a very good job, has really brought the system forward. I think Ralph's comment that we thought we knew how to really do things years ago, and in hindsight you find out you really didn't necessarily know it all that well, but I think Kathy has really built the expertise of the organization, and I thank her for her hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So seeing no other requests, thank you both. Ms. Donaldson, you saved your easiest agenda item for the last, so good for you. Brings us to agenda item 7C, summary of committee direction. Ms. Bailey Crimmins.
Mr. Chair, I have 3 items. One is to provide the board the membership numbers by plan. The second is to publicly share the progress that the board and CalPERS has made between May and June. And then last, in addition to the correspondence that we're getting from the plans on they're still offering reproductive and gender identity services. Also, it sounds like we would like confirmation regarding availability and competency of care in addition to that letter.
Very good. Thank you. Item 7D, public comment. I have 2 requests from the public, Tim Behrens and Larry Woodson. Please come forward. Identify yourself for the record, and you'll have up to 3 minutes for your comments.
Thank you, Chairman Fechner, members of the committee. Tim Behrens, President of the California State Retirees. I wanted to start by thanking the health staff team for producing this health buck. It's going to mean a lot for us out on the field when we have a lot of questions about, boy, CalPERS is spending way too much money on health care, blah, blah, blah. This is a very good example, and I hope we'll get a regular size copy in the future like the other CalPERS buck. So having said that, I think that I agree with many of you that the rates are too high. United Healthcare, 9.24%, and on the Fortune 500, they're number 6 and made 12.5% increase in their revenue last year. So at what point can CalPERS, when they negotiate these contracts, hold their feet to the fire when they have made that kind of profit in the year before we negotiate with them? That's my question.
Well, if you want an answer from me, I would say it's going to depend on the appetite for the members of the system to say no, that you don't want that plan anymore.
Okay.
That's the bottom line.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woodson?
Good morning. Larry Woodson, California State Retirees. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I also appreciate the staff and the board's expression that the rates are too high. I am a little disappointed that there is an expression of getting tougher next year. I wish you would have got a little tougher this year, but that's not the main subject of my comments. I expected a legislative report today by Mr. Brown, and I ran into Danny in the hallway and found out that there was a management decision that he would no longer present health care legislation to this committee, but to the full board, and that's when he's going to be talking about AB 1611 by Assemblyman Chu, the surprise medical bill. So I'm disappointed that it seems to be a step away from transparency for us. But I'm going to comment on that today. CSR endorsed this bill because it will help protect our members on basic PPO plans from surprise medical bills from out-of-network hospitals for ER treatment. When a member has a life-threatening trauma, heart attack, et cetera, they're in no condition to dictate where they are taken by ambulance. and to meet an insurance plan's network coverage. We asked staff at the last stakeholder meeting last Thursday why CalPERS was watching rather than endorsing this bill. And we were giving a defense by CalPERS of Anthem and CalPERS' ability to minimize risk of surprise bills by virtue of the broad Anthem hospital network and their ability to negotiate in-network rates with out-of-network hospitals. And we were told that only 1 or 2 members a year actually appealed, went all the way through the appeal process with CalPERS, so that it was really a minimal risk. We were also told that 1.3% of care PPO members received was out-of-network ER care. It took me several days to get the exact number of what 1.3% represented. It's 4,100 members. I was told that many of them are out of state, but I'm assuming, since they didn't say majority, that at least over 2,000 members are facing this risk. And Mr. Brown did state to us that it was unclear if 1611 applied to CalPERS members, since not all of the PPO plans are, or since the PPO plans are self-funded and only regulated by the federal government. I followed up on this point with Chu's office and was told absolutely they are covered by the bill. There's a section that says all hospitals with emergency departments licensed by California are in it. So in conclusion, we think that the board should support this bill and let the courts decide if its applicability of the Hospital Association happens to sue. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. So you know the requests. This committee meeting is adjourned. Performance and talent management at what time? 10 minutes? 2:50? 2:50 will be talent management.